Hey beautiful people, my name's Kristen. Thank you for stopping by, spending some time with me today. I have one of my favorite things to talk about, and that is books and my book reviews. And there is technically a couple days left in the month, and I will probably, in all likelihood, finish one more book, but I have already finished 11 books this month, which I think is the most books I have ever read in 1 month. I really don't know that I've ever, usually 10 is my total max. So I read 4 fiction books, 5 nonfiction books, and 2 classics. So as always, I will hold them up. It'll probably be a little longer video because I have more books, but just scroll along. But note, there are a couple books that you have probably not heard of that are 5-star, including the one that I read last, and I am going to talk about it last. So if you skip forward, tune back in for that one because it may be worth it. First, I want to talk about Nora Roberts' Heart of the Sea. This is the 3rd in a trilogy. This is the one where there is a fairy and a leprechaun kind of magic system that's going on with this, and there's 3 siblings that each book is a different love story for each of the 3 siblings, and it's a legend in Ireland, and it is fun. I just love this series. I might even reread it someday. I'm probably not going to hold on to this book, but if you like lighthearted romance and are up for a little cool legendary fun, Nora Roberts, the first one is Jewels of the Sun. So look for that one, see if you like it, and if not, I wanted to finish out the trilogy, and I'm not disappointed when you're looking for something light and romantic. Then I read Frederick Bachman's Us Against You. This is a sequel to the Beartown. And Beartown was the story of a small town that is struggling desperately economically and got a lot of issues, and they hold on to a junior league hockey team, and one of the key players commits a crime and how people deal with that. And then this is kind of the fallout from that same character, same town, dealing with some real issues that come about. It's not an easy light read necessarily, but it's a deep character-driven good read. So if you liked Beartown, which I highly recommend you read at least Beartown, this is a deeper dive into it, if you will. Then something else light, if you're looking for a summer read or a poolside or you're doing a staycation, this is great. It's Ellen Hildenbrand's Summer of '69, and normally she writes there's usually a serious issue involved, but they're very easy reads, right? They're very beachy reads, and this one is not different in the larger sense, except for she kind of wrote this as a tribute to her. She's a twin, and she wrote this as a tribute to her twin, who they were born in '69, and there was some interesting circumstances around the birth, and it gives a nod to the history of the Vietnam War and all the political issues, the moon landing, all the good stuff. I was born in '69 myself, so I particularly wanted to read this and loved it. And so having some of those kind of nonfiction elements, I guess, if you will, and then bringing it into a fictitious story to kind of put some flesh on it is a delightful read. So I highly can recommend this one. I don't think I've read an Ellen Hildenbrand that I totally dislike. There's some I like better than others, but she is an easy pick it up if you see anything and need it. Then I read The Woman in Cabin 10. This is one that I got from the Better World Books offline for fairly inexpensive. Wanted to pick it up and see. It's kind of gotten mixed reviews. It's touted as a kind of parallel to Agatha Christie's Then There Was None, because you are on a cruise ship and you are isolated and there is a murder mystery, and so it's only the people who are right there that could possibly be in on it. And despite the negative reviews, I think I give this one a positive. It's not a 5-star. It had some maybe slower parts or some part, but I didn't fully figure out everything that was going on. You started to get a glimpse of it, but there were some things I missed, and I didn't totally connect to the characters as deeply as I would like to, but I thought it was really well written in the kind of storytelling style that it is, and I enjoyed it, and I read it very quickly. It's definitely an easy read, kind of page turner kind of book, and I'd recommend this. I'd give it at least 4 stars. So my classics for the month. I read Walden by David Henry Thoreau. This is a collection of his thoughts, experiences, and memoir, if you will, of living Walden Pond, just the people who came, his lifestyle, and the whole premise is living simply and just living with gratitude and growing things and just not being caught up in materialism or worldly things, but just seasons, and just a beautiful chapter of, he took like his tub and had like a bath outside, and literally, like, I don't know how he didn't get pruny, but he sat and bathed and soaked and enjoyed nature and the sounds of it for like the whole day and reflected on that. Just, it's a lovely read. Not necessarily one that you whip through, but that you can kind of savor. It was one that I decided to read on my back porch, which was a great choice. So it's a nice. Then I read Homer's The Odyssey. My son had given me this beautiful copy for Christmas. I think it's got a pretty, no, it doesn't have it. I thought it had a pretty picture inside, but and this of course is a old school classic, goes a lot with the story of the Cyclopses and the sea monsters, and we're following Odysseus, and which the Latin name I think translates as journeyman. So the Odyssey means the journey, and so it's his kind of happenings as he's trying to go out and do his duty as a soldier and conquer, and then try to get back home to his wife and not be tempted by all these gods and worldly things that are going on in the meantime, and almost dying like every chapter. So anyway, the Odyssey is a fun read. You probably read at least excerpts in school because this is one of the most famous ones, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then ironically, the very next book, these aren't necessarily in the order I read them, but the very next book I picked up after that was a nonfiction called Homer, The Ninth Life of a Blind Wonder Cat. So this is a memoir biography about this cat named Homer who lost his vision very early and had to have surgery and was blind, and just his kind of, it's a short, very easy read of just reflections and funny and silliness and touching stories of this cat. But he was named for the author of the Odyssey, and there's quotes of the Odyssey specifically, because Homer also wrote the Iliad, right? But it's the Odyssey that gets quoted all throughout this. So I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even do that on purpose. I picked up that one, and then I just picked up this one because I was doing classic and then nonfiction. So anyway, if you like cat books and that kind of thing, it's an easy little read. This is actually, I think, a sequel. I haven't read the first one, so maybe the first one's even better place to start. Then I read Joe Saxton's The Dream of You. This is a Christian-based book from a Christian author-speaker that basically has a lot of beautiful, uplifting scriptures and stories about trying to have the image of ourselves as created beautifully and wonderfully made. And of course, that is what I'm all about, because I even try to adopt that in my greeting as beautiful people, because I truly believe that at the heart of us, we are all uniquely and beautifully created. So anyway, that was a nice read. My coworker had given it to me, and I figured it was a great time to pick it up and read it. Then I've got City of Devils, Paul French, and this is the book that I got in my first coloring in classics. Nonfiction about 2 warlords who were over in Shanghai, and kind of their backstory and lives and going-ons and the fall of this gangster empire in Shanghai, which I did not finish this. I tried. I read over 150 pages of it, and then I just couldn't anymore. And I think the issue was, even though they gave backstory and explained about why they were who they were, I didn't find that to be a good excuse for all the darkness and the poor reoccurring choices, and I just find this really down and depressing. I understand it happens, but to read it for hours in detail is not my idea of how I want to spend my time. So I won't talk any more about that, so because I don't recommend it, and didn't even finish it. Read most of it, over 2/3 of it. It was interesting a little bit for the history, but no. Another Dollar Tree book, or I guess this is the first Dollar Tree book I'm talking about, The Guardians, Sarah Manguso. This is a memoir as well, and she's engaged, about to be married to one man, but one of her very good friends, who was a male, kind of platonic friend, but very, very intimate with him in other ways, he committed suicide. And so this is her wrestling with that and remembering and reflecting and in the tension of that. And I think, I'm not actively grieving myself, but I think if you were, this would even feel kind of like a kindred spirit helpful thing, because it's not trying to put a bow on it or make it all solved and beautiful. It's just kind of sitting in it, and sometimes that can be an important thing. And it's super short, and it's at the Dollar Tree. So, and now, if you've been waiting, this is it. Stop your scrolling. 2 and 2. This is maybe my favorite book that I read this whole time, and it's from the Dollar Tree, y'all. Rafe Bartholomew, and it is about McSorley's Irish bar in New York City, and this is a beautiful memoir. I really, really appreciated his writing style. He starts out and he paints the picture of his family history, and he talks about his grandfather a little bit and how his grandfather kind of shaped who his father was. And then it goes into detail about his father coming to work at McSorley's in New York City and kind of find his place there, if you will, and then raise his son up to kind of witness this and hear the stories. And his son was just enthralled with all the people and happenings and wanted to know all the history, and just one of those old bars with all the history that's on the walls. And you can make an argument that it's one of the very first, oldest bars. They didn't even close down during Prohibition. So then it goes into a lot of these stories about a lot of these reoccurring customers, famous people, writers, all this kind of good stuff. Talks about St. Patrick's Day, Super Bowl, talks about Hurricane Sandy, and it kind of ends at that time period. So I would love an update on COVID and the trials of that, because I would think that would be particularly hard, because they're not really known for their food. They're known for their ale. And they serve light and dark, and they serve 2 at a time, 2 and 2. So they bring, you can't just order 1 mug of beer. You have to get 2. You just want light or dark. And so if I ever get back to New York City, I'm going to be looking this up and seeing if I can go and find it and see it. But I literally cried twice, and I laughed out loud several times, and my husband kept going, wow, that must be a really good book. Yep, this is 5 stars. I'm going to look for more copies. This was the only one I remember seeing at the Dollar Tree, but I'm going to look for more copies, and totally recommend this to several people that I think would truly enjoy this. If you have any interest in New York City, it talks about 9/11 and going on with that. It just talks a lot about character development, and it's just really, really touching. Just, you know, a lot of life and real life and stories happen in bars, and there was a lot of humor with it. There was a cat involved. So anyway, those are my reviews. Thank you for taking some time to hang out with me, listen to them. I hope that you maybe heard something that you would like to check out. If you want to leave me a comment of your favorite classic or book that you are reading that you think I should check out, I really do. So leave those below, and y'all have an awesome, super blessed day.